My mum's name is Diana. She was very clever, and she got a scholarship to Cambridge at 17 to study medicine. And she always wanted to be a doctor, and she just was very, very good at sciences, and she just genuinely, I think, really wanted to follow a career that helped people. One of the many amazing things about my mum was that she's totally committed to the NHS. And I remember she told us that sometimes it would take a long time for people to get appointments with her, and sometimes people would say, could they pay? But she really believed in sort of fairness and that everyone had the right to free healthcare. My dad said, they changed the bed sheets because they always did that on Mondays. My mum had actually prepared some lunch for them, and he said he was going out to post a letter, and he got on his bike. And as he left my mum at the kitchen sink, and as he was cycling, it was only a couple of miles away, he got a phone call, and he missed the phone call, but he saw that my mum had called him. So he luckily stopped and listened to the message, and my mum said, "I feel terrible, please come home." Then an ambulance was, obviously dispatched, but during the wait for the ambulance, my mum lost consciousness. So she was brought here to the Great Western, and my dad came with her in the ambulance, and she'd had, what we discovered was an unsurvivable bleed. I guess the thing is, in a situation like that, your brain just can't keep up with the events. 1 minute your mum is happily at a barbecue, and the next minute you're contemplating that she's not there. So, I think it's, some sort of shock sets in because you're just trying to compute that you've lost your mum. The nurse came in and said to us, we'd like to come at some point to talk to you about organ donation. And my dad's response was, understandably, my mum was 84, like my wife is 84. I'm not sure, she'd be suitable for organ donation. So, yes, and then the nurse came back later and said, actually, your wife has opted in to the scheme. And I think for all of us, that was completely, of course, mum would have opted in. She was, a doctor, and she would have completely been 100% behind that. So, but we didn't expect that actually she might be a viable organ donor. So when we discovered that actually she was, and that she could be, we were, I suppose quite proud of her. I very much feel that my mum sort of spent her life caring for people, and she was also doing that in her death, and not that, she was also very practical. So also her kind of view, I'm sure, would have been, well, they're no good to me now, are they? So when we were phoned, when Trudy phoned us the next day and said that, they had successfully taken her kidneys and her liver, we were just amazed, that my mum at the age of 84 could still have organs that were going to help other people. I do think she would have been proud. I think my mum was very humble. So, and she wore her achievements very sort of quietly, but I think she would have been quietly very proud that this had happened.